We are hearing ongoing reports about what seems to be positive movement forward in negotiations when it comes to ceasefire hostage release deal. But realistically, could we see any deal made within the coming days? Is it even in Hamas's interest at this point, given Israel's continuing calls for the total destruction and demilitarization of the group?
Yeah, what we see is a discussion on two different levels, and they are not meeting. The one level is Israel, United States, Egypt, Qatar, that speaking about, and Hamas leader probably in Doha, speaking about the Paris One agreement as a possible base for negotiation. On the other side, we saw that Hamas leaders in Gaza joined this and agreed to, and that's raised the expectation. But right now we are hearing different voices, not from the people in Hamas, but from their people outside, from Hamas spokesmen, and they're getting back to square one, which means Israel has to withdraw from Gaza, a constant and a ceasefire not limited in time. Now, from Israel point of view, it's a no-go, because from Israel point of view, ceasefire, it means Hamas prevails, and this is what Israel cannot agree to at this point. I believe that the population of Israel is standing by. It's not a government decision, but a public decision, both in Gaza and in Lebanon, which we are not didn't mention. So I believe that unless we are mistaken, and the pressure in Gaza is built in a way that the people down there in the bunkers, as Barak Ravid mentioned, are influenced what happened in Shifa, what influenced what happened in Hospital Amal. Maybe this will change, but we don't know that because it's a decision taken by one or two people.
Dan, I'm interested to hear your take on this.
Well, you mentioned ceasefire. The question is, what kind of ceasefire? If Hamas sticks to its demand that a ceasefire mean the end of the war, then Israel cannot give it that. And Israel probably won't at almost any cost, and so we will not see a hostage deal. If a ceasefire means 4 to 6 weeks, and X number of prisoners that Israel has to release in return for Y number of hostages, that's conceivable, because it falls into the rubric that we knew for some time might be the only way to any kind of a deal, which is a partial, temporary ceasefire in exchange for a partial release of prisoners. I think it's in Israel's interest to do this because Israel needs anyway 4 to 6 weeks of a respite to let the people out of Rafah in an orderly fashion that does not enable Hamas to escape as well. So that kind of a ceasefire needs to happen from Israel's perspective as well, and also to regroup some of Israel's international legitimacy for what's to come, which undoubtedly will be an assault on Gaza, on Rafah, but better for Israel if that be done after it's been depopulated of displaced people.
Right. So, but my question is whether or not Hamas would be willing to accept a temporary ceasefire, because they've, been sticking pretty, hard to their guns, saying that we want to see a permanent end to this war, because it truly is not in their interest at this point to see a ceasefire like that.
I'm not so sure it isn't, because Hamas still, despite being a dictatorial mafia entity, does operate within a society where they have incredibly quite a lot of legitimacy, and they want to maintain that. So if they can get prisoners out, if they can score some points on the humanitarian front and a period of quiet for the people who want it, not inconceivable that they'll go for that. They're not exactly hugely attuned to public opinion, and they clearly don't care a whit for real about the life of Palestinians, but it's possible that they'll conclude that, yeah, it's worth it for them to release X amount of hostages. I don't think they'll release all the hostages, which is obviously bad news from the Israeli perspective, because to have some hostages remain is, at the end of the day, Yehia Sinwar's life insurance policy, unless he agrees to the exile deal, which I suspect at some point might be coming.
Would you say that Hamas is not fully understanding of public opinion when it comes to what's happening on the ground?
Yeah, the Israeli public opinion, because there are so many voices coming out of Israel opposition and within the government. They are listening to the voices that opposes the government, that opposes the deals, that serve the causes, and well, which is natural. We all do this. But from Israel emanating so many voices, conflicting voices, that this might strengthen.
Well, but there's no voices from Israel that say, let Hamas prevail, let them stay in power.
No, that's not the question. He's working on experience of, you have to remember the history of Yahya Sinwar, the Gilad Shalit, which he got free, and since then the operation. And he always believed that the Israeli internal conflicts are playing for his side. Now he is trying to see the hostage families, the opposition leaders, playing against the governments, and they will stop or they will help him, his cause.
Look,
He believes it's...
if I may, it is true that you have hostage families that are, Israelis' hearts go out to those families, and basically they are saying, it's true they are saying, do a deal at any cost, even if it means leaving Hamas in power. Alongside the sympathy for them in Israel, that's a minority opinion. And Yahya Sinwar, he may be crazy and evil, but I don't think he's unintelligent. I'm sure he knows that there is near consensus in Israel for his removal from Gaza, dead or alive, basically. And I think dictatorial regimes and bad faith players around the world, the axis of evil worldwide, has always tried to present dissonance within democratic societies as a source of weakness. It's conceivable that there's an argument there, but there's a counter argument that says that therein lies the strength of democratic societies, that we have different points of view, and therefore the possibility of the wiser one prevailing exists, because there's not one guy named Sinwar who decides everything and could decide to bring down the entire house upon the Gazans if that's his inspiration on any given day.